looking at the vertebral column, and that's what we're looking at here. So we've got the vertebra themselves, we've got the discs. These facets in here are where one vertebra articulates with another one. And this whole system is held together by a wide variety of connective tissues. You know, when you really think about the vertebral column, you envision the vertebra, you envision the discs and the cord which passes through here. But, you know, a lot of times people don't think about how is it all held in place. You think about the muscles. The muscles are great, but the muscles, if anything, can also pull on your vertebral column, to pull it one way, pull it the other way, whatever. And it's these ligaments and connective tissues that hold everything in place. The reality is these ligaments that run along the spinous processes really do a lot for stabilizing the whole vertebral column. We will be talking more about the discs, the intervertebral discs, in the course of today and Wednesday, since bad things can happen to them, and it's important to understand that. Also, the structure of the vertebrae themselves. There's a lot going on in here. We have the spinal process. Those of you that have taken anatomy, this will be real clear. Those of you that come in here from just a human physiology course, you're going to have to just spend a little extra time looking at this. Because the vertebrae themselves are, while on the surface they don't seem very complicated, there's a lot going on. The thoracic vertebra not only articulate to one another, but they're going to articulate to your ribs. The lumbar vertebrae are just going to be articulating to one another. The cervical vertebrae will be articulating to one another. So we have all of these articulations. They're calling them facets here. We have an articulation here and here. We're going to have articulations here, there. So there's a lot of room for problems. When you have so many articulations, that means literally you have a lot to keep in alignment. We have the pedicels. The pedicels attach the body of the vertebra to the whole, all of this material. So we have the two pedicels. And then the spinous process is held in place, if you want to think of it that way, by the lamina. Here's lamina, there's lamina. You may have all heard of a surgery called a laminectomy. You know, on occasion, somebody with back problems will have a laminectomy. Laminectomy, frequently what happens is you come in, you cut this and that, remove the spinous process here, and you can relieve stress, cause all other sorts of issues. But sometimes with serious herniations or serious problems, serious nerve damage, you can actually help with all of this. The good news is I'm never going to put a slide of a vertebra on there and have you label it. That's not the whole point here. You're all going into, you know, occupational therapy or something else in the medical world where you're going to have to understand what goes on with the vertebra, because back problems are pretty common, and understanding what your patients have done to their backs really helps as far as you coming up with good solutions to problems. So here we have the spinal cord coming through, done the whole cross section here. You can see all of the tissues in here, all of the various nerves and blood vessels tied up in there. And we see in here a better view of the disc. The discs themselves are rather interesting. The annulus fibrosus is a fibrous connective tissue, and that pulpus nucleosus, or nuclear pulp in the middle, is a thick gelatinous fluid. So the fibrous connective tissue gives a fair amount of strength to the actual disc itself so that it becomes slightly compressible. And the fluid that's within there limits what can be compressed. So that it's like sitting down on a pillow full of jelly, so to speak. You know, it can be, I don't know if you've ever sat on those pillows, I don't know, some chairs come with these weird pillows. It allows you to sink into it and kind of be comfortable. And it's the same thing here. When you really think about those, doing this, those are interesting maneuvers. Bending forward, bending back, moving your vertebral column in these different directions requires a movable pillow between the bodies of the vertebra. That pillow, as I move in this direction or the other direction, as I move in this direction, this compresses, this expands. I move in that direction. And these are extreme. I've gone to obnoxious extremities here. Rarely is, you typically don't have this extreme, all right? But it allows you to have the flexibility laterally, anteriorly, posteriorly, so that you can move without causing any extremes to lead to damage with the nerves that are coming out. Because it's the nerves coming out between the vertebra that are seriously critical. So we have kind of, I'm going to go back and forth between two different views here. We have this view of the cord, okay? So we've gone into you, we've sliced you in half. Sorry for science. We can see this. Oh, here's the spinous process up here. These are the lamina. The nerves, these are two spinal nerves coming out, are sitting on top of the pedicels here, okay? And here's the body of the vertebra. Without the vertebral disc here, what you would end up doing every time you move, remember you've got another disc sitting, or the vertebra sitting on top here, was as you would move, the bones would come in contact with the nerves. What happens when a bone comes in contact with a nerve? What?
Pain.
Pain?
Yeah, friction.
Okay, friction, pain. That it? Pain, friction. How about loss of sensation? Loss of pain is exacerbated sensation. Okay? You might not be able to get a signal to a muscle. Lose sensation. Okay? So the intervertebral discs really help a lot here. So here's the cross section of the cord. We actually have the cord itself sitting in here. The nerves coming off of the cord, okay? So here are nerve tracts coming off. We are going to have, we're going to look at that in greater detail in just a second. I don't want to go into great detail here. What I want you to see here is that we also can visualize the meningeal system. Now here we have what are called the spinal meninges versus the cerebral meninges that we looked at the other day. So we have dura mater. The blue is shown as dura mater, all right? Surrounds everything. Under the dura mater, we have the arachnoid. We have this big subarachnoid space, And surrounding the cord, we have the pia mater. Look at this. Look at this. CSF in the subarachnoid space. We have that big subarachnoid space again, full of CSF. So we have now surrounded your cord with cerebral spinal fluid. Once again, like with your brain. Your brain is surrounded with cerebral spinal fluid. As I move around, my brain, hopefully, isn't bouncing against the skull. As you move around, your actual cord isn't bouncing around in here. The CSF actually helps cushion it, besides bathing it in a sugar ion oxygen-rich fluid. We've got here this space, the epidural space. The epidural space in your spine, in your cord, surrounding your cord, is quite large. So it's between the dura, it's between the dura and the periosteum of the vertebra. This is an interesting tissue. And the reason it's an interesting tissue is because it is sometimes used to deliver anesthesia. Oh. Have you all heard of an epidural?
Yeah.
When do we usually use epidurals?
Labor.
Okay, labor is one. Labor is a critical one. Okay, we're going to take a look later on at a figure that's actually from a different textbook about using anesthesia with an epidural during labor, because the reason you use it is to reduce pain, but it also severely reduces contractions. Ugh, that's not good. What's the whole point of labor? To have contractions. Get that kid out of you. So there's a lot that goes on with that. But sometimes we'll use anesthesia in these spaces to actually do surgeries. A lot of times, for certain procedures below the waist, we can actually do anesthesia, epidural anesthesia at different levels to attain different levels of anesthesia for there's no way to be redundant there. For various procedures. Why would I want to do that? Why not just put you under?
More risk involved.
More risk involved. You know, I mean, frankly, general anesthesia is a controlled death event. It really is. You know, a lot of times with total anesthesia, you have to go on supplemental breathing or all sorts of things. So anything to avoid general anesthesia is typically a good option. The beauty here is typically when you do anesthesia at a specific level, the first thing that is going to become anesthetized are the local nerve roots, the nerve roots that are at that level. So you lose those and then you lose what's below them when you do this. Does that make sense? Are you with me on that? Do you see what's going on there? Okay. So you should understand this general layout and structure. Yeah.
Lumbar or thoracic that they usually put the...
Lumbar, typically.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about delivery, it's lumbar.
No, surgery. If you're talking about the surgery from wrist and go.
Most of the time it's lumbar.
Then, okay.
Yeah. And there's a good reason for that because, you know, above that,
But
you know,
maybe the last one of thoracic.
through that lumbar thoracic region, but most of the time